Hey everybody, my name is Jared and I am a Master Mason in the state of Mississippi in the United States of America. And today's viewer's question is, are y'all ancient, free, and accepted, or free and accepted? Can you tell what this means and the difference? Well, first of all, thank you so much for putting this in my native tongue. Y'all is just how we speak here in Mississippi, whether it's proper English or not. You'll never hear it said during a degree, but it's still how we talk. So I think to get to the root of this matter, part of your question is, can you tell what this means and the difference? And I think you're right. That is where we need to start. So Freemasonry traces its routes all the way back to the original stone guilds. Craftsmen, people who knew how to work and build things with stone in very special ways, had a operative craft that allowed them to keep that skill. It wasn't like riding a bike. Not everybody knew how to do it, and they wanted to make sure that they could be paid well for their craft. And so it wasn't common information that was out there. Those people were so skilled in their knowledge that even though we're talking about a time where we are either just before or even during feudalism, when people are living in a type of governance where they can be told whether or not they're allowed to travel and whether or not they're allowed to make money, that these people with their high level of skills were free to move about the country and perform their art, to perform their skill. And because of that is where we get the free part of Masonry. So that's a Freemason. The accepted part comes in many, many years later, when you have men who realize that there were certain lessons that could be learned using Masonry and Scripture as a template to give lessons in morality. And they wanted to think about this in a speculative way. So rather than be operative Masons and actually work with their hands, they wanted to be speculative Masons and think about what kind of things we could derive from how operative Masonry works and teach people how to build a better self. Okay? And so those people became accepted Freemasons. They didn't know the craft in the sense of the operative term. They didn't know how to work with the stone and build the buildings, but they understood the craft on a separate sort of level. And so that is where, in my limited understanding and not being a historian, my understanding of where the terms free and accepted come from. So now we have to ask ourselves, where does the word ancient fall into all this? Well, again, from my limited understanding, I think it's important to mention that in any group of people, you run into contention. And the same thing is true with Masons. We don't always agree 100% on every single thing that is happening inside of a lodge room. Just general business. Do we pay this bill or this bill? Do we want to do this improvement or not do this improvement? And sometimes we don't agree on that unanimously. But we have a proper form to be able to have a civilized discussion. And it's based, in a way, around the parliamentary orders, the Robert's Rules of Orders. And we follow those to have a civil discourse, to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to voice an opinion, but also so that we don't have long discussions that don't lead anywhere. And so after this discussion is done, we can come to a conclusion that is hopefully agreeable by everybody, or at least meets in an area where nobody can feel like they were totally ignored on their stance. Well, sometimes that just doesn't happen. Sometimes the best thing for a group of people to do is to say, you know, we can't agree on this. I won't change my opinion, and clearly you won't change your opinion. And rather than be in disharmony and argue with each other about that, why don't we just separate ways? Why don't we just part ways, shake hands, and call it a day? Well, my limited understanding is that that is essentially where we get ancient, free, and accepted Masons. And part of my research on this, I found this website that I thought was very beneficial, so let me bring it up for you. It is on a website called mastermason.com, and you can see the full URL in the title there. And it says here, titles of Grand Lodges in the United States vary. Some are called AFNAM, which means Ancient, Free, and Accepted Masons. The other most commonly used is Free and Accepted Masons, or FNAM. The reason for this difference is that in England, when the Grand Lodges first started, there was a rivalry between two factions of Masons. One faction adopted the title Ancient, and the others did not. This carried over to the United States, where both titles are still in existence. And interestingly, something that I was not aware of, because quite frankly, I tend to focus on my lodge, and if there's something happening within my jurisdiction, the state of Mississippi, that could impact my lodge, then I pay attention to that. But generally speaking, I'm not worried about what's happening in other jurisdictions or the differences between the two. So I thought this was some interesting information. Two other titles exist in America. Masons in South Carolina call themselves AFM, Ancient Freemasons. Those in the District of Columbia call themselves FAAM, Free and Accepted Masons. But no matter what the title, all lodges work toward the same end, which is true. And I did go and check both of those Grand Lodges before making this video, and they are still using those titles, so this website appears to be up to date. So I'll take it at face value, and if somebody else knows better, you can leave a comment down below. So what does it really matter? It doesn't. It's all the same. We may not be doing the exact, to the word, same ritual work, but the end result is the same. All the things that Masonry is trying to teach is the same, but different titles are used. More interestingly, it has been brought to my attention that in the past, the state of Mississippi was Ancient, Free, and Accepted Masons. We now, to answer your other question, simply go by Free and Accepted Masons. Nobody seems to have any record of why the word ancient was dropped. Nothing. One has to presume that in a couple hundred years worth of history, that somewhere is written down probably a one paragraph thing about why it was dropped. Could it even possibly fall down to a simple clerical error? Possibly, but unlikely. I would think that Masons are better record keepers than that, or at least I would like to think so. So, I hope that answers your question. Whether or not your lodge is titled Ancient, Free and Accepted, or the other titles does not matter. What is more important is whether or not your lodge, your Grand Lodge, your jurisdiction is in fraternal communication with another Grand Lodge. And that is something we will talk about in another video. Thank you all so much for watching. If you do have any questions, please don't forget to leave them down in the comments below, and I will try to get to your question in another video. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.